Hello YouTube, this is Marcus with another video. Today's video is going to be on kind of a serious topic. It's been on my mind for a very long time, and this video is aimed at mainly ham or amateur radio operators, whichever you prefer to be called. And this is something that's been bugging me and been on my mind for a long time. For those of you who have not browsed my channel, seen some of my other videos, I do have a CB radio base station set up in my house. I have a base station antenna outside. I have a mobile CB radio in each of our cars. And I am a person who I try my best to go by the rules that are in place on the CB radio. I do not have illegal amplifiers on any of my radios. I have not made any modifications to them to make them exceed 100% modulation or have more than a 4-watt carrier or anything of that nature. The only modifications I've done to any of my radios is I've replaced bulbs in the meters because a couple of the bulbs just blew over time. And my first Cobra 148 that I bought was way off frequency on single sideband when I bought it. It was fine on AM, but it was way off on single sideband. And I had to line it out and put it back on frequency. Other than that, I really make an earnest attempt to stay within the rules that the FCC has put into place. And for what I use CB radios for, they're great. I can communicate with my wife around the town, around the county. If I run errands and I need to holler at the house and ask her a question, or I just want to talk to my wife, I can talk to her from just about anywhere within 20 or 30 miles. It's a lot less distracting than a cell phone. I don't have to pay for her to have a license so she can operate the radio by herself without me there. You know, it's just easier that way, and it's effective. I have studied and considered on several occasions taking the test for my technician class ham radio license. However, every time I think about it, I have a negative experience with a ham radio operator. Now, I don't want to be a person who says, you know, all ham radio operators are bad, or all, you know, amateur radio guys are jerks with a chip on their shoulder who think they're all that in a bag of chips. However, the vast majority of the active amateur radio operators that I have communicated with, not over the air obviously, because one, I don't have a ticket, so it's illegal for me to transmit on ham bands, and two, I don't own a ham radio, so I couldn't if I wanted to. I've been communicating with them via YouTube and Facebook groups and things of that nature. I have studied the basic knowledge required to pass the test. I built an 11-meter dipole for my CB radios just to see if I could and if it would work, and it did. I make my own coax for my CB radios if there's a problem. I know, you know, all of the basic terminology. I know what wavelength is, and I know the difference between kilohertz and megahertz, and I even wrote my own little Python program and published it to SourceForge that calculates the wavelength of a given frequency. You know, you enter a frequency and it spits out the wavelength, and it gives you like the full, quarter, 5/8, and half wave values. You know, I'm the kind of guy that ham radio operators should want to join their cause because, you know, I'm a young guy. I've got a lot of followers on Facebook. Uh, you know, I've got a lot of I don't have a lot of followers on YouTube, but I've got a handful of followers on YouTube, and I'm halfway intelligent. You know, I'm somewhere above a rock when on the scale of intelligence, and I have made an earnest attempt to study for the technician test, not just to pass the test and be able to use ham radio, but because I am legitimately, personally interested in radio. I find it pretty cool how they work, uh, you know, and it's just something that intrigues me. But every time I think about it, you know, I'm like, you know, it's only $15. You know, they've got uh, they've got testing schedules posted online. They have exams, 20 miles from here every other month or so. It's not that much work to go pass the test, and I've already got the knowledge. I've taken practice tests online, but every time I start to think about it, and I get excited and I start talking to people, some dickhole ruins it for me. Just the other day, this morning or yesterday, I don't remember which, this guy on YouTube, I watched his video, I think yesterday, and I posted a comment completely unrelated. Uh, I was very polite and professional, and his video was about, he had an old Heathkit radio that he was basically just showing, hey, this is older than dirt radio, it still works. It's got problems, but it's a good solid radio, and it's cool that it still works. And he got on the air and made a couple of contacts, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I wanted to kind of participate in a conversation. I wanted to say, hey, this is pretty cool. Here's a similar experience I had, and I mentioned the words CB radio because my grandmother had an old base station she talked on for ages, and she died. And I told him, hey, her radio worked fine when she put it into storage, and when we took it out, had all these problems. And one of the worst things you can do with the radio is to just put it in storage and let it sit and not use it. I was very polite to the guy. I'm recording just the audio right now, but there should be a picture of part of the conversation on the screen right now. And he immediately starts attacking me personally because I even dared to mention CB radio on his video. And then he started trying to quote, and I commented back, and I tried to kind of passive aggressively say, I kind of tried to passive aggressively just de-escalate the situation and say, hey, I hope you find something that makes you feel better. Or gives you purpose in life, or something to that effect. I tried not to resort to directly attacking him personally, even though I was highly insulted that he replied to a comment that was not meant to be rude with personal attacks. And then he responded and started trying to incorrectly quote the FCC regulations, and then dared me to prove him wrong. So I did. I actually posted a response to every point he made with the correct things that were actually stated in the FCC regulations for CB radio, because, believe it or not, I actually have a PDF copy of those regulations. I saved Part 95, Subpart Delta, to a PDF file, specifically so I had it stored locally on my hard drive to reference if I had any questions. This is how, that's just the kind of person I am. I'm really legitimately interested in this stuff, and I want to make sure that I'm able to have fun with my radios, and I try my best to operate within the rules. If I'm not one of these guys who cuts modulation limiters and throws 1200 watts on the CB band and bleeds across 14 channels and ruins it for other people. And so after I posted the reply quoting the FCC regulations and telling him where he could find them, he responded with, well, I'm not that smart, but at least I'm not too lazy to get a ham ticket. And then, to avoid making himself look bad on his own channel or in the comment section of one of his videos, he proceeded to go to my YouTube channel and start looking up all kinds of my videos. He responded to, like one video, was of some skip on my CB radio, but I did not speak. I never transmitted the first time, and he comments breaking the CB rules because I just had it turned on and recorded some skip that I thought was, was pretty cool because it was hammering pretty good, and I recorded a minute or so of the skip conditions and posted it to YouTube. He commented on one of my videos about my rifle and asked me how many children I had killed, and he commented on another one and basically told me I wasn't a man, I had to carry a gun to feel like a man, and then he made fun of the fact that I hadn't shaved in 2 or 3 days. I mean, he like 8 or 10 of my videos because I dared to comment on one of his and try to have a friendly conversation that involved the words CB radio. And that type of experience, sadly, is not unique. That is not the first time I have had an experience like that because I dared to say the words CB radio in front of an amateur radio operator. It just, I have met some people who are ham/amateur radio operators who are good guys, who are intelligent, who are helpful, who have pointed me to resources. But I have met so many people just like this guy. I'm not going to mention his channel name because I'm hoping that maybe he realizes what kind of a douche he was being. I don't even want an apology. I just want him not to act like a dickhole every time somebody mentions the word CB radio, because it's not fair to people who are legitimately interested in the radio hobby for him to act like that, or other ham radio operators to act like that. I've got friends that I talk to. We've got a local CB club that's on the air every night about the same time. And it's just a bunch of old guys around the county who turn on their radios and they chit-chat about what's going on in the area and what they had for dinner or whatever. We're all here within 5 or 10 miles of each other. None of them runs any huge power or anything like that. Mainly, they just talk to each other. They're all friendly. I have never been insulted by any of them for talking about ham or amateur radio. I have never been personally attacked by any of them. And before you say, well, because it's because they're your friends. I didn't know any of these guys in real life. I served in the Army for 6 years, and when I moved back, I just, for some reason, I got an interest in radio, and I got a CB radio, and I put it up an antenna, remembered what channel my grandmother used to talk on, and flipped over there, and said howdy, and introduced myself, and they welcomed me like one of their own. And I've never had the first problem or complaint out of dealing with the CB radio operators in my area. But every time I seriously consider getting my ham or amateur radio license, I have an experience like I did today and yesterday. Every single time. And that's why I haven't bothered with it. It's only $15. Like I said, it's not a big ordeal to go get it. But I'm not going to go spend any money if the people that I'm going to talk to are the guys are the guys that I'm having these negative experiences with. I don't want to spend money to talk to those guys. I can talk to people I like for free, legally. I don't have to pay for a license for my wife to use the radio while I'm gone. So why should I bother? It just, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm saying that all ham or amateur radio operators are bad, because obviously it's not. Obviously the majority of them are decent people, but enough of them are not, coupled with, like I said, the fact that I would have to buy new radios. I could probably keep my old antenna and just tune it for 10 meters or whatever. I know that's not on the technician class license, but I wouldn't have to buy all new equipment, but I would have to buy radios, and they're more expensive. And I'd have to buy multiple radios so I could have one in the car and one in the house. I would have to get myself and my wife both licensed. And then the only people other than each other that we'd be able to talk to is, these extremists, these elitists with a chip on their shoulder who think they're all that in a bag of chips because they know what the word resonant means. It blows my mind. But anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. I wanted to get that out there, and I guess my message to ham or amateur radio operators is this: I'm the type of person that you should want to participate in your communities. I'm the type of guy who is legitimately, personally interested in radios. I think it's cool, and I like it. I spend hours on YouTube watching videos of other guys put up their antennas or talk about building J-pole antennas or dipoles or watching coax being built. I just think it's neat, that you can take something with a modest amount of electricity and hardware that's completely housed in your home or your car, and you can communicate wirelessly with no dependence on the established infrastructure. If a tornado hits or there's some kind of an emergency, me and my wife can still communicate with each other. I can go out and check on family members or whatever around the area, and we can still use these CB radios to communicate with each other, even with no electricity, no established infrastructure, no cell phone service, none of that. And I think that's pretty awesome. And I don't know if I'm not a ham radio operator. I have not communicated on the ham bands. I don't even have a ham radio to listen. I've got a little police scanner here hooked up to a UHF antenna, but it's not, it's not the best thing in the world for monitoring ham radio traffic. So I don't know if this happens a lot on the air. I do know I have seen plenty of videos on YouTube of new hams getting ripped because he gets on the air, tries to say hello, and some old guys on there think that that's their frequency, that nobody else should be able to use it, and start giving him a hard time. So these experiences are not unique to me, because I've had several of them just in the past couple years, and they're not unique in general. It extends beyond the internet onto the air, obviously, because there's YouTube videos about it. And those of you who are ham and amateur radio operators, who are good guys, I know you can't police up every single bad apple in the group, no more than I can police up every douchebag on Channel 6 that makes half the CB band unusable during daylight hours. But maybe, on the QRZ forums, or on whatever website or whatever, when you're talking on the air, maybe, I don't know, start a discussion about attitudes toward prospective ham radio guys, because at this rate, you're not going to get, young blood into the hobby. I know right now amateur radio is actually at an all-time high, but relative to the population increase, it's not. And I don't think it's going to be if people keep acting the way they're acting with new guys. But I'll post this video. Like I said, I'm just recording audio right now because I just wanted to speak without staring at pictures and getting distracted. But throughout this video, I'll try to share some screenshots of part of the conversation. Obviously, it's not the whole conversation, because after I took the screenshot and got my video editing software up, I went to my YouTube channel to go to the the little upload page to get ready, and I had like 8 or 10 new notifications where he just went and trolled all my videos, and I'm really to the point to where I don't think I'll ever screw with it. I've got friends on CB radio who run CB radios here locally, who have or did have ham radio licenses, and for a lot of the same reasons that I'm not going to bother with it in the first place, they just do theirs away and let it expire, because there was nobody on there they wanted to talk to. The new guys they did meet on the air were usually rude, and it just, what's the point in paying money for something if that's the kind of experience you're going to have when you use it? But if you guys have any input or suggestions besides study, because it's not about the knowledge. It has nothing to do with the knowledge. I demonstrated to this guy clearly that I knew what I was talking about. I don't understand why mentioning the word CB radio warrants personal attacks, when every time I've ever done it, I have been completely civil and respectful to the people I'm talking to, because I'm legitimately interested in this hobby. I don't know what's going on. I do know one thing. I'm not going to be a ham radio operator anytime soon. I'll stick with my CBs. I've got my friends are on there. My wife doesn't have to get licensed to use it, and I don't have to deal with these douchebags I've met. If you guys have any input for me, or suggestions, comments, whatever, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you don't want it to be publicly visible, feel free to go to my YouTube channel and go to About, and then send me a private message on YouTube. I get notifications and I do check them. This is Marcus out. Y'all have a good one.